That's beautiful.
I was the only one. What?
Okay, so dear devotees, thank you all for being here. We continue our regular SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM discuss. And today we have His Grace Salika Prabhu speaking. It's amazing. Salika Prabhu is very amazing because he was not the original devotee scheduled to speak. There was a change in the originally scheduled speaker's itinerary. So Salika Prabhu volunteered to step in. So we thank you very much, Prabhuji. And so we're going to put the verse on the screen and we may begin. Hare Krishna.
Am I clear? My voice okay?
Yes, you are.
Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Nairai Chaivam Naruttama Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nasta Aprayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistike. So we are reading from SRIMAD Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 18. Today we are reading text number 15. And the text goes as thus. Tanno Bhavavai Bhagava Pradhano Mahatma Kanta Parayana Udaram Taritam Visudam Susrusatam no Vitano tu Ovidyam Tanno Bhavan Vai Bhagava Pradhano Mahatma Kanta Parayanasya Hare Udaram Charitam Visudaham Susrusatam no Vitano tu Ovidyam Tanno Bhavan Vai Bhagavat Pradhano Matamaikanta Parayanasya Hare Udaram Charitam Visudaham Susrusatam no Vitano tu Ovidyam. Word for word translation. That, therefore, now of us, Bhavan, your good self, Vai, certainly, Bhagavat, in relation with the personality of Godhead, Pradhana, chiefly, Mahatma, the greatest of all great, Ekanta, exclusively, Parayanasya, of the shelter, array of the Lord, Udaram, impartial, Charitam, activities, Visudham, transcendental, Susrusatam, those who are receptive, now, ourselves, Vitano too, kindly described, Vidwahan, O learned one. Translation and purport by Divine Grace Labai Charina Ravinda Isiba Kibren Saswami Patitapa Vandaga Guru Seva Ghosh the Prabhu Party. O Sutta Goswami, You are a learned and pure devotee of the Lord because the personality of Godhead is your chief object of service. Therefore, please describe to us the pastimes of the Lord, which are above all material conception, which are above all material conception, for we are anxious to receive such messages. Your purpose purpose. The speaker on the transcendental activities of the Lord should have only one object of worship and service. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the audience for such topics should be anxious to hear about him. When such a combination is possible, namely a qualified speaker and a qualified audience, it is then and there very much congenial to continue discourses on the transcendence. Professional speakers and the materially absorbed audience cannot derive real benefit from such discourses. Professional speakers make a show of Bhagavat Saptaha for the sake of family maintenance, and the materially disposed audience hear such discourses of Bhagavat Saptaha for some material benefit, namely religiosity, wealth, gratification of the senses, or liberation. Such Bhagavatam discourses are not purified from the contamination of the material qualities. But the discourses between the saints of Naimi Sarayan and Sri Sutta Goswami are on the transcendental level. There is no motive for material gain. In such discourses, unlimited transcendental pleasure is released both by the audience and by the speaker. And therefore, they can continue the topics for many thousands of years. Now, Bhagavata Saptahas are held for 7 days only. And after finishing the show, both the audience and the speaker become engaged in material activities as usual. They can do so because the speaker is not Bhagavat Pradhana, and the audience is not Susrusatam, as explained above. Oma Gyanam Timirandasya Gyanam Shala Akaya Chakshu Militam Jena Tasma Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Statitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Padantikam. Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kakantara Dakanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vindavameshwari Prishabhano Shridevi Pranaman Hari Priye Vancha Karpataru Uvyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Sivascha Patitanam Pavashnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Vancha Karpataru Uvyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Sivascha Patitanam Pavashnebhyo Sri Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Mukankaroti Vachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yat Kripa Vande Sri Guru Dimatarina. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srinivasadi Shri Tora Bhakta Zinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Rama Ram, Hare. The screen beside this is a little bit okay. Let me read mine. Tanno Bhavan Vai Bhagavat Padano Mahata Mai Kenta Paras. Now here. Hare Udaram Charitam Visudaham Sususatam No Vitano to Ovidyam. O Sutta Goswami, you are a learned and pure devotee of the Lord, because the personality of Godhead is your chief object of service. Therefore, please describe to us the pastimes of the Lord, which are above all material conception, for we are anxious to receive such messages. Hare Krishna. So before trying to endeavor to render this service of speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam, I want to first and foremost offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan Rishi, this foremost human being. And offer my obeisances onto this. Just a second, please. So sorry for that interruption. So before making an endeavor to speak Srimad Bhagavatam, we offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, this foremost human being, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam, to all of the acharyas in the line of disciplic successions, to all of the senior God brothers and God sisters, contemporaries, and all the devotees assembled on this platform, this auspicious moment of the day. Whether it is morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever we are, this moment is considered the most auspicious because it is the essence of our existence. The opportunity to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, to speak Bhagavatam, to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam is the topic of today. And the summary of all of this section of the canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam is emphasizing on that. So I beg for your mercy that I may be able to say something that will be of benefit to myself and pleasure of the speakers and of the listeners. So I've prepared, even though it was a very short notice, some few slides to guide me in this course of this discourse today. Today, so we are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 18, text number 15. And like Sahadev said, for those of us that like numbers, actually auspicious the whole of this week, from the 14th, 15, 16, 17, and 18, the speakers are going to be speaking on the numbers of the. It's a very
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Salika. Please, I think your voice is too low. Please.
Oh, sorry, forgive me.
Yeah, we are doing things so.
I'll try to speak a little bit louder. Is it okay now?
Yeah, Prabhu. Thank you.
I'll try to increase my voice. So, like I said, we're speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 18, text number 15, discussing Maharaj Parikshit's cause by Brahmana boy. And the text we are reading today is talking about most interesting aspect of the discussion. Today we will not be emphasizing on the cause of Maharaj Parikshit. We will be talking about this statement of the sages of Naimisarayan to Sutta Goswami. Of course, we understand, we all know that Srila Vyasadeva is the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, and he gave this knowledge. He spoke Srimad Bhagavatam to Sunaka Rishi, and then Sunaka Rishi spoke to Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami now is being engaged by the sages of Naimisarayan to repeat what he has asked, what he has heard from his spiritual master, Sunaka Rishi. And which is the tradition of learning in any field of activity, whether it is material, spiritual, technical, or whatever. For one to be able to embrace and to get the essence of any subject matter, one has to listen to the person who is authorized in that field of thought. So the sages of Naimisarayana here now are saying to Sutta Goswami that you, Sutta Goswami, you are a learned and pure devotee of the Lord, because why? The personality of Godhead is your chief object of service. This is the qualification that qualifies you to speak to us. Srila Gurudev used to say that for anyone to be successful in any endeavor, he must ask himself 3 basic questions and get answers to that before starting. Otherwise, his endeavor, his effort will be a failure even before he starts. And those 3 questions are that what is the goal? What do I want to achieve by whatever endeavor I'm pursuing? Whether it is Bhakti Yoga, whether it is material endeavor, whatever endeavor. What am I trying to achieve? What is it that I'm trying to achieve? That has to be established. Then when one is able to identify and answer himself of what goal he is expecting to achieve, then the next thing he should ask himself is, okay, has this goal ever been achieved by anybody before? Who are the person who have achieved it? Sutta Goswami has successfully, he has heard from Sunaka Rishi. So he's qualified to speak to the decision of Naimisarayan. And the next thing is that how do one hear it? And the whole of the text we are reading this afternoon is emphasizing on. So each and every human being in life must answer this basic question. So this sages of Naimisarayan, they ask Sutta Goswami, we are asking you to please speak to us. Why are they speaking? Why are they asking him to speak to them? Because they know that each and every human being is a product of what he knows. Because Sutta Goswami knows, because yesterday, having taken shelter of Nagmuni, knows the ultimate goal of human life. So he spoke to his son, Sunaka Rishi, and the Sunaka Rishi, they sent disseminated information to Sutta. And the sages of Naimisarayan, they have the same goal. So therefore, they actually approach him. So every human being is a product of what we know. According to a Dr. Ubeto Maturana, an influential system theorist, biologist, and philosopher, all true knowing involves action. And this is important. And that's why I liked it that one don't really actually know something until he can use it. This is the difference between knowledge and information. Facts are merely data you have available and don't translate into true knowing and skill until you can use them. The key to wisdom and knowing involves using our knowledge to create a positive change in the world and in our individual lives. So the sages of Naimisarayan are concerned about the whole of the situation of the living entities in the material world and everywhere. So therefore, they are asking Sutta Goswami, because they know he has the capability, he is qualified in all respects. So they are asking him, because why? You are the chief among who? because you have successfully asked. And to buttress Sutta Goswami being qualified, Sutta Goswami himself, he demonstrated, just like we've just seen now, we've heard, that when one asks a knowledge, knowledge is not knowledge, it's just a mere information if it is not involved an activity. So in other words, he who actually has heard must be able to speak. If one is not able to speak, it means that person has not heard. And if that person speaks and he cannot live what he speaks, it means that that person is what Prabhupada referred to in the later part of the purpose. We will come to that part. So this, when we look at the first canto of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, chapter 2, Sutta Goswami, whom is being approached here, himself, he started when he was going to start talking to the sages of Namisarai. He said, Yasanu Bhavan Akila Sruti Saram Ekam Adhyatma Dvipam Atite Satam Tamo Om Daham Samasrinam Karunoya Raduyam Tam Vyasa Sunum Upayane Gurun Muni Naham. He said, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him, Sukha, his own spiritual master. Why? Because the spiritual master, because he is the spiritual master of all sages, the son of Vyasadeva, who out of his great compassion for those gross materialists who struggled to cross over the darkest regions of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge after having personally assimilated it by experience. And this is very interesting. He is offering his obeisances to his own spiritual master because, like I said, one must identify his goal. What is the goal? Out of his compassion for the gross materialists who struggle to cross over the darkest region of material existence, he spoke the most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge. That is the purpose of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. And this is very interesting because as we go along, when we look at the topic of this chapter of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM we are reading, we wonder, how does this discussion relate to the title? The title is that Maharaj Parikshit is being caused by a young Brahmana boy. And he is caused. So how does someone being caused relate to wanting to hear about a subject matter about Krishna, God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead? The application of Maharaj Parikshit is what is important. And that is what the sages of Naimi Sarayan are asking Sutta Goswami to explain to them, because in the situation Maharaj Parikshit finds himself, in the course of trying to engage in his duty as a king, he made a mistake, a seemingly mistake. And in the course of that, he finds himself in a kind of a situation that is very, very similar to the material struggle that we all experience in our lives. Maharaj Parikshit's case was that he was faced with a situation whereby, in the course of blind of beauty, he has a situation whereby he has made a step that has put him in a situation that is about to take his life. It is about to end his existence. And Maharaj Parikshit's approach to that situation is what is bringing about this discussion, because the greatest skill anyone in the path of devotional service can learn is the ability to see a positive situation in a negative circumstances. And I repeat that. The greatest skill anyone can learn in the path of devotional service is that to be able to see a positive situation in a negative circumstances, which is what Maharaj Parikshit is demonstrating. And the sages of Naimi Sarayan are wanting to hear the glories of how he uses the negative situation. Because when one is faced with a situation that brings about the termination of his existence, it is the most degrading situation. But Maharaj Parikshit uses that same seemingly degrading situation, just like in the material world. We are all faced with all kinds of perplexities, inflation, violence, this, that, so many seemingly unwanted situations. But ability to be able to use those situations to transform it into a positive achievement is what Maharaj Parikshit is demonstrating. And that is what the sages of Namisana, because for whoever has taken birth in this material world, from the highest planetary system, for the highest personalities of Brahma to the lowest person, there is only one positive goal, and that is what? To leave this environment, because by natural inclination, living entity are not meant to be in this environment. So the sages of Namisaraya now, they ask him, so Sutta Goswami, he demonstrated in that verse that he himself, and what did he say? He said this narration is what? To remove, most interestingly, the miseries, the perplexities of material existence, which is what is the major challenge for the every living entity. And in the purport to that verse, Prabhupada gave one interesting statement. What did Prabhupada say? Prabhupada said that in the third paragraph of that purport, of that same verse I just quoted, Prabhupada said in the purport, and that is what I highlighted. Prabhupada said, there is no point in arguing that a materialistic man can be happy. No materialistic creation, be he the great Brahma or an insignificant ant, can be happy. Everyone tries to make a permanent plan for happiness, but everyone is baffled by the laws of material nature. Therefore, the materialistic world is called the darkest region of God's creation. Yet the unhappy materialistic can get out of it simply by desiring to get out. Unfortunately, they are so foolish that they do not want to escape. Therefore, they are compared to the camel who releases thorny twigs because he likes the taste of the twigs mixed with blood. He does not realize that it is his own blood and that his tongue is being caught by the tongues. And the point here is that there is no any efficacy, there is no any panacea, there is no any solution that can give. In the purport to that verse, what this properly is saying, there is no point in arguing that a materialistic man can be happy, no materialistic creation. That is what the property is saying. There is no any material arrangement. There is no any kind of material arrangement that can give one the relief from the material distress. The only solution is the great narration about the activities, pastime, and the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the sages of Namisaraya, they identify this. And so therefore, they look for that a qualified person and they listen to it. In our devotional service, even when we come into Krishna consciousness, we are so we become like the example Prabhupada gave in this purport, like the camel who releases drinking his own blood. Any endeavor that the conditioned soul makes in this material world to become happy will be futile, except what? This narration, transcendental narration of what? Of Krishna's activities. The sages of Namisaraya, after gathering for one, they gather to engage in 1,000 years of austerity. And when after analyzing everything, they realize that the only solution, the only efficacy, this is a big lesson for us. So for each and every one of us, and practically in our individual life, if we do not come to this conclusion, to come to where these sages of Namisaraya have come to approach a personality like Sutta Goswami, to ask for the real essence, which Sutta Goswami himself confirmed that it is the only panacea, it is the only solution for relieving the living entities, then our endeavor in Krishna consciousness is a mere waste of our time. Because it is, like Prabhupada gave the analogy in the purport, it's considered to be the camel's eating twigs, drinking his own blood. No material solution, with anything at all. You can give it any name. You can call it you can give any paraphernalia name. It does not matter whatever it is that we're giving to it. It will never give relief. And therefore, so the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he confirmed that the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 19th chapter, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said what? Krishna Bhakta Nistamya Saiva Santa Bhukti Mukti Sadikami Sakale Asanta. Because a devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he is peaceful. Fruitful workers desire material enjoyment, jnanis desire liberation, and yogis they desire material opulence. Therefore, they are all lofty and can never ever be peaceful. This is like kind of a curse, and this is coming directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one, no material arrangement can make anyone become peaceful. You will never solve any material problem outside of what? The transcendental hearing, listening to, associating with the SRIMAD Bhagavatam. This is the purpose of giving Bhagavatam. There is no other reason. So this Bhagavatam, the Sipa Goswami, is being requested by the city of Saraya because they are concerned. They are concerned with the real challenges of the living entities in the material world. They have done research. They have come up with the ultimate solution. And they said, therefore, we request you, Sutta Goswami, what is that you are qualified? Because why? You yourself are taking shelter of a qualified person. And Sutta Goswami himself, he said, yes, because himself has taken shelter. And this is the efficacy. And that is what Prabhupada started the purport with. In the purport, in the first paragraph, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that what? That in the first paragraph of the book, Prabhupada said, the speaker on the transcendental activities of the Lord should have only one object of worship and service. And that is very interesting. Because it's not just Prabhupada saying that. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has actually emphasized that. Prabhupada uses two words, worship and service. And this is how powerful Prabhupada is connected to the line of disciplic succession. Because a real doctor will never give anything that is not tested and proven. And Prabhupada started the purpose. He emphasized two things, worship and service. Where did Lord Krishna say that? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava Mata Sarva Prabhatate. Iti Mantua Bhajantima Bhava Samandita. In that translation, Prabhupada gave very beautiful, the same thing. That what? I am the source of all spiritual and material words. Everything emanates from me. The wise who knows perfectly know this thing. Now, this is what I want to take out. Lord Krishna is saying here, the wise. In other words, one is a foolish person if he does not come to this conclusion. The conclusion is that a wise man is that what? He perfectly knows that Krishna is the supreme goal of everything. And he engages in his devotional service, in service and worship. The same word Prabhupada used in this purpose. That is the first line of Prabhupada's worship. That every activity should be geared towards the object of worship and service, which is what? The Supreme Personality of Godhead. In every, like I started with in the beginning, in every endeavor, Prabhupada said, the speaker is transcendental. So the one object of worship must be Krishna. So therefore, it reminds us of what? Of the essence of our coming into Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, just like in any human endeavor, from the point we started, there is always the goal and there is always the process. In our devotional language, it is said what? It is given by Srila Rupa Goswami that what? There are two things in devotional service, the sadhya and sadhana. Sadhya means the goal. And that goal is what? Is Krishna. There's no other goal of human existence than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the sadhya, there are always two things, the goal and the process. And the sadhana is what? Is the process by which one attains the goal. And the goal is what? That process is what? Is bhakti. And that is why Lord Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Mama Bijananti Bhakti is the process by which one can attain the goal of Krishna consciousness. And this leads me to giving I'll narrate one short story to emphasize how one should be able to identify the goal. In the story of Ajamil, when we look at the story of Ajamil, most often times when we talk about a story of Ajamil, what we always actually look at is the aspect of the story of Ajamil that emphasize the goal of the process, which is chanting the holy name. But there is another thing. In the story of Ajamil, there are two things that this goal and the process is both emphasized. When we look at the story of Ajamil's story, in the 6th canto of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, 3rd chapter, Ajamil was being dragged away from his body. And the Yamadutas were ready to take him to the court of Yamaraj to face his judgment of his nefarious activities. But the Vishnuitas came. Why? Because Yamaraj, because in Ajamil called upon the name of Narayan. So when we remind the story of Narayan, Ajamil, we often remember the story of how the holy name saved him. But that story gives us two lessons. The first lesson is that the goal of the process, which is what we almost often refer to, is the process, which is the chanting of the holy name. But that same story narrates to us what is the goal. I want to identify the goal. When the whole of the scenario happened, when the Vishnuitas took away Ajamil from the Yamadutas came. They came to who? They came to their master, Yamaraj. And there is a very big conversation that ensued from there. The Yamadutas from the 6th canto chapter 3, coming down from text number 4, the Yamadutas, when they approached Yamaraj, actually, their approach to Yamaraj was to bring him down. Because they felt, how can one be serving someone who is the supreme master and then be defeated in his endeavor? So the Yamadutas, they started the conversation. They said, our dear Lord, they refer to Yamaraj as their Lord. They said, how many controllers or rulers are there in this material world? How many causes are responsible for manifesting the various results of activities performed under the three modes of material nature, Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, and Tamo Guna? In that conversation, they continued the conversation, and they go further. They said, if in this universe there are many rulers and justice who disagree about punishment and reward, their contradictory actions will neutralize each other, and no one will be punished or rewarded. Otherwise, if their contradictory acts fall to neutralize each other, everyone will have to be both punished and rewarded. They continued in the conversation. The Yamadutas continued. They said, since there are so many different kinds of workers, there are many different judges or rulers to give them justice. But just as one central emperor controls different departmental rulers, there must be one supreme controller to guide all the judges. So then they said, the supreme judge must be one, not many. It was our understanding. Now they are expressing. They said to their master, they said, our understanding is what? That you are the supreme judge, you are the supreme controller, and that you have jurisdiction even over the demigod. Our impression, the assumption that we have was that you are the master of all living entities, the supreme authority, who discriminate between the pious and impious activities of all beings. They went further, but now we can see that the punishment ordained under your authority, you being the supreme authority, is no longer effective, since your order has been transgressed by 4 wonderful and perfect persons. We were bringing the most sinful Ajami towards the hellish planet, following your order, when those beautiful persons from Cedar Loca possibly caught the knots of the ropes with which we are arresting him. They went further. As soon as the sinful Ajamila uttered the name Narayan, these 4 beautiful men immediately arrived and rescued him, saying, "Do not fear, do not fear. We wish to know about them from you, your lordship. If you think we are able to understand them, kindly describe who they are, those people that have the power to defeat us, when we were the master servant of the most supreme person, yourself, Jamara." And Sukadev Goswami continued to narrate the story, because Sukadev Goswami is narrating here. So just ask me questions. Let me stop here. There is one lesson to be learned here. When the Yamadutas, when they challenge their masters, there is an interesting lesson to learn here. When they challenge their master, that it appears as we go further in that, we will see the Yamadutas, they ask their master, it appears that you are not the supreme, because if you are the supreme authority, what happens is that what you should have been able to do what, to save us from being defeated by those wonderful perfect persons as they described to them. And this is one thing that we need to learn from. When the Yamadutas, they ask their master, they challenge him like that. Yamaraj, who is Dharma personified, he exhibits one good quality. What is that quality? He exhibited the quality of a spiritual person. It is said that the measure of a spiritual wisdom is emotional stability when criticized. When you are criticized and you are not able to bring out the essence of the situation, Maharaj Parikshit, he was caused, even when he was trying to maybe doing the right thing. In this case, Yamaraj was being challenged by his own servant. That we thought you were the supreme master. We thought you to be the highest authority. But here, look at you. Your instruction has been defeated. So we are thinking that you are not the authority. But what did Yamaraj did? Yamaraj did what any devotee should do. Yamaraj did not go to the direction of how are you criticizing me? How are you challenging my authority? Who are you to question me? Yamaraj did what? He took the advantage of their challenging in what seemingly we call criticism. Yamaraj used that opportunity to do what? To bring about the ultimate goal. And that is what I said earlier on, that the highest quality a devotee can develop is to do what? To be able to navigate from a negative situation, attain a positive perception of everything. So Yamaraj did something. He did not. Let's continue the story. He did not get rough by his inferior asking him that story. So Yamaraj said, he continued, he answered them. He said, "My dear servant, you have accepted me as supreme, but factually, I am not. Above me and above all other demigods, including Indra and Chandra, is one supreme master and controller, the partial manifestator, who are in charge of the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this universe. Is like the two threads that form the length and breadth of a wood, just as a bull is controlled by a rope in its nose." This is beautiful. Why? Because the Yamaraj is taking them, even though it was being criticized, his authority was being challenged, his superior position was being minimized. Yamaraj did something. What is that? Personal application is that every situation that comes before us, we must be able to use it to attain the glorification of the supreme personality of God. That is what Maharaj Parikshit did. And that is why we are hearing this story. That is why the sages of Nami Sarayan are asking Sukadev Goswami that please narrate this thing to us. This story, we want to hear it. Because why? When we hear it, it gives us what? It gives us what Maharaj Parishit attained. And what is it that Maharaj Parishit attained? Maharaj Parishit, after the all of the scenario of what happened by the cause of the young Brahmana boy, the story of the Madhitas, which I was explaining, it gives him the opportunity to be able to to direct him to the ultimate goal, which is Krishna consciousness. And that is beautiful. So let's go further. So therefore, from this story, one thing we should understand, that our success in devotional service is not dependent on where we are situated. It is dependent on how we are situated. And what do I mean by this? In Krishna consciousness, each and every one of us, we're engaging in devotional service individually and collectively. So our success in devotional service is not dependent on where we are. Where are we all? We are all in Krishna consciousness. That is where we are. But our success is not dependent on our being in Krishna consciousness movement. Our success in devotional life is dependent on how we are situated in devotional service. And how are we situated? How we are situated is manifested, how we relate, how we respond to everything, just like Maharaj Parishit responded to the cause of the Brahmana boy. Just like Yamaraj, the story that we narrated, how he responded to that situation. How Suniti responded when Dhruva Maharaj asked him questions. There are several stories that can bring us to this, but we should understand our success in devotional service excuse me, it's not dependent on where we are situated, being in Krishna consciousness movement, our being in the Hare Krishna movement, or living in the temple, or being in the presence of the deity does not determine our success. Our success is dependent on how we are situated in Krishna consciousness. How we are situated in Krishna consciousness is what? Is manifested in how we respond to situations. And in the purpose, Prabhupada said what? He explained how the sages of Nami Saranyo were situated. And Prabhupada said in the purpose, and the audience for such topics should be anxious to hear about him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When such a combination is possible, namely a qualified speaker and a qualified audience, it is then and there very much convenient to continue discussions on the transcendental level. In other words, from that place, our attainment of transcendence in our devotional service will manifest. Lord Krishna confirms that in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text number 54. What did Lord Krishna say? Lord Krishna said what? Brahmabhuta prasanatana sukati natanchati samasavesh bhukteju mabhaktim labate param. That one who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state of mind, he attains pure transcendental loving devotional service. That is what Maharaj Parishit attained. That is what Maharaj Parishit got. Because what? Because Maharaj Parishit was on the transcendental platform. The sages of Namisa were on the transcendental platform. Sutta Goswami was on the transcendental platform. Our Krishna consciousness begins when we are able to, by association of devotees, rise to that position of transcendental level. That is when our arrival becomes in Krishna consciousness. So going further, Prabhupada said further in the purport, I will stop on that point, even though we can elaborate much on that. Prabhupada goes forward in the purport and said to us, Prabhupada gave another very important point in the purport, which Sukadev Goswami and Sutta Goswami has mentioned in the beginning, that professional speakers and materially absorbed audience cannot derive real benefit from such discourse. Professional speakers make a show of Bhagavad Saptaha for the sake of family maintenance and materially disposed audience. Here, such discourses of Bhagavad Saptaha for some material benefit, namely religiosity, wealth, gratification of the senses, or liberation. Such Bhagavata discourses are not purified from the contamination of the material qualities. In other words, we might attend Bhagavatam classes from every day, but if the Bhagavatam does not enter us, if we attend Bhagavatam class and Bhagavatam did not attend us, then we are wasting our times. Because if Bhagavatam actually relates in our lives, what will happen is that both the speaker and the hearer will be benefited. But if our motivation, if our coming to, like the verse Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said in Madhya that we quoted before, Krishna Bhakta Niskam here, why are we not able to focus on the essence? But Krishna Bhakta Niskam here, only a devotee is qualified to be peaceful. So whoever comes to Krishna consciousness, why should we give him something else? It should only be Krishna. Krishna consciousness. The sages of Nami Sarayan, they were qualified brahmanas. They have the ability to perform so many austerities in the earlier part of this country we had. Their eyes were blackened by the smoke of austerity. Whatever it gives, material engagement in reality actually brings the opposite of happiness. And why spiritual activities gives us spiritual happiness? And from practical experience, we can explain this from many things. And why it is that? Because in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has mentioned that which in the beginning is very sweet, and at the end is bitter, is what? It's degradation. But spiritual knowledge, spiritual science is differentiated from where? By what? From the beginning, it looks so much bitter, but at the end, it gives a sweet result. So we go forward because of time quickly. So in the next point, Prabhupada goes further in the purpose. Let's quickly rush through the last part of the purpose, and so that we can finish on this. Now, Prabhupada further in the purpose, he mentioned that what? But the discourse between the saint of Nami Sarayan and Sri Sutta Goswami are on the transcendental level. And because it's on the transcendental level, because it's on, let me share. So Papa said further in the purpose that the sages of Nami Sarayan, but this discourse between the saints of Nami Sarayan and Sri Sutta Goswami on the transcendental level, there is no motive for material gain. So therefore, in such discourses, unlimited transcendental pleasure is released. Both the audience and the speaker, and therefore they can continue the topic for many thousands of years. It's never tiring. It's never frustrating. So now Bhagavad Saptaha, I heard. This is the last paragraph in the purpose. Papa said, I heard for 7 days, only after finishing the show of both the audience and the speaker become engaged in material activities as usual. They can do so because the speaker is not Bhagavad Pradhana. Bhagavad Pradhana means what? It is explained in the purpose, and the audience is Susu Satam, as explained above. So this is what Bhagavatam is all about. This is the essence of what it is. So to round up, because of time, to summarize everything that we said this afternoon in Nigeria, is that this purport of this text we are reading, Srimad Bhagavatam 4th Canto chapter 18, text number 15, is focusing on 3 basic points. One, that when we look from the text, the sages of Nami Sarayan were asking Sutta Goswami to speak about a subject matter which they have acknowledged, they have confirmed based on their realization is the ultimate solution to all human difficulties. And that is confirmed by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada emphasized that because they know the goal and they know the process. And because they know the goal and the process, they were able to choose wisely. As Krishna advised, mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, those who are wise, this is how they take decisions. We spoke about that. We then explained that anything outside of that will never give anybody happiness. And then we quoted Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who emphasizing that it will never give happiness. And then we explained that to buttress the point of sadhya and sadhana, that the goal is Krishna, and the point that every devotee in his application of devotional service in his life and the understanding of devotional service should be able to act like Maharaj Parishit, should be able to act like Yamaraj, that we use whatever situation that appears in our life to be able to attain the ultimate goal, just like Maharaj Parishit, Yamaraj did with the Yamaduta. And I will emphasize that ability, once spiritual advancement is manifested, on how he responds to condemnation or criticism, how one uses negative situation to attain the ultimate purpose or to attain higher realization. That is what signifies the symptoms of a transcendentally situated person in Krishna consciousness. And we explain what is that transcendental situation. That transcendental situation is what? Experiencing continuous eagerness, attachment to engaging in devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in adverse to those who are not doing that for the purpose of an ultimate goal of Krishna consciousness, which is Krishna, and following the process which is Bhakti. Their effort is frustrated. And we concluded by Srila Prabhupada's purpose, where Prabhupada is emphasizing that those who are not doing this is their result. And this is beauty of the Vedic scripture, because it gives the essence, it gives the goal. And when we're able to identify the goal and the process, ultimately attain the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. It's exactly 1 hour on the dot, and I want to stop here to accommodate questions, comments, contributions, if there are some corrections, and maybe some little chastisement, not big one. A little chastisement, it is welcome. Thank you very much for this and Matadis. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, His Grace Salika Prabhu. Beautiful, wonderful, insightful SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM discourse. But as you may know, your class kind of brings out lots of questions. So I think devotees may put some questions to you for answer. So dear devotees, if anyone has a question, please, you can use the hand emoji or use your natural physical hand to ask your question. So as devotees, there are certain words, terms, phrases we use all the time, but most of the time we do not really understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, your break for some time, can you repeat what you said? I didn't get, there was the break.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So I was saying that as devotees, there are so many times that we make statements. We say certain words, phrases that we do not fully understand what we're talking about. We always talk about material sense gratification. What does it mean when we say that material sense gratification does not really bring about happiness? What does it mean?
Very good question. Very beautiful question. And I'll try to answer questions, and if there are other additions from devotees, we take that. To be able to understand what is material enjoyment and how it does not satisfy us, we have to start from the point of who are we in the first place. Because unless one understands who he is or who she is, to identify what is his beneficial endeavor activities, what is actually his pleasure cannot be defined. Most often times, when people talk about happiness, they refer to the happiness based on gratification of the senses, the body, the activities of the body. That is our consideration of happiness. And that is where the problem is. Because that is why Lord Krishna, when he started speaking with Arjuna, even though Arjuna was talking about not killing his family member, he was talking about a very critical situation that requires a critical thinking and critical solution. Lord Krishna left that completely and told Arjuna, he knows me yatadi hey, kaumarum yauvanam jaya, the interpreter, For you to be able to understand what is your well-wishing activities, one has to come from the bodily consciousness of life to the spiritual level of consciousness. Only then one will be able to ascertain, because one who thinks himself to be the body will consider whatever gratification of the body and the senses to be happiness. But one who is actually on the real state of the living soul, and as we all know, the living soul is not the material body. Prabhupada has given us so much critical analysis to be able to ascertain that. We say my hand, my leg, my nose, my hand, my body. But who are we? We are something different from all of this. So therefore, material activities may satisfy our bodily needs. It may titillate our mind. Our senses may be gratified. But if the soul is not satisfied, then, but when one does not know that is the spirit soul, he thinks himself to be a material living entity, then he is in his problem. That is the same thing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself did. Same Lord Krishna, when he came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when the Shankazi, when he was stopping the Sankirtan movement, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he staged a peaceful protest. And when he had an engagement with the Shankazi, what was his point of discussion? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not talk about the breaking of his drums. He didn't talk about stopping the Sankirtan. He started by saying, whatever you are acting on a plane that is completely opposite of who you are. Come first to who you really are. Come to the real platform of your existence. Then we can start talking. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So many examples are there. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he was priding on the fact of the benediction of Sarasvati, that no human being born of human who exists in this world or beyond the world will defeat you in argument. And when he was defeated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became morose. He did not eat. He did not bath. He went home, lamenting like anything. And because he was a dear devotee of the Sarasvati appeared to him and told him, look here, my friend, what is your problem? Excuse me. You promised me, as the gods also started giving fake promises, you have never failed me before. But now, it's like your promises are becoming failures. Just like the Yamachitas, they told their master, you promised me nobody will defeat me. From above or from down or from this earth. And that's what he told them. Yes, my religion has never failed. Because the person you are talking to is not person of this world or that world or any of this space of existence that you are talking about. Is the origin of all of those places that you are thinking about. So therefore, when we talk about material happiness, brings us to ruination, brings us to distress ultimately, what we meant is that presently, and that's why I buttressed the point by quoting Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, that in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explained it in chapter 6. He said, that which in the beginning, it will make us happy. But when we leave this present body, because the body is temporary, no matter how long we live, we will shed this body off. Then we come to reality of our real self. Then we realize that actually it's a distress. But even while we are staying here, the most unfortunate thing is that even while we are here, no, you can name any material sense enjoyment. The highest form of sense enjoyment in material world is what? Is sex life. But immediately after you engage in sex life, what happens? Your blood count drops. If you don't make an alternative to increase it back, your death is almost near. There are so many stories across the globe of people who immediately in the process of engaging in sex leave their body. What else can we think about? We get a very nice facility in cars, and we are very happy. We're enjoying the car. After some time, the car starts giving us headache. Instead of us driving the car starts driving us. We enter into the plane, and that is the most worst thing. And when you pay so many thousands of dollars, and people sometimes they're happy. One of my friends, we were chatting. He asked a conference to engage in. in Indonesia. And then we were chatting, said, I'll be going to Indonesia. I'll be on the plane for almost 24 hours because my first flight is connecting flight. I have a flight for 9 hours. Then the next flight will be 14 hours. I'll be spending over almost 24 hours or more on the air. And I laughed. I said, why are you laughing? I said, because I'm pitying you. You are saying you spend, but who is guaranteeing you that you spend 1 second the moment the plane leaves the earth? It's not on your control. So the plane giving you 14 hours of travel is dependent on something differently. So you should be thinking of that person or that thing that gives you that living and attaining the destination, not that thing, because that journey. And then when you enter the plane, what is the first thing the hostess tells you? They start telling you how to save yourself. Is it not ironically interesting? You have paid so much money to enjoy, and the moment you sit down to start enjoying the pleasure of riding in the air, they start telling you you are likely to fall down from this place. And when you fall down, you should start thinking like this. And if you are unfortunate, it's a total blast. Your whole body pieces into pieces. What kind of enjoyment is that? And we can talk about it. Any form of a material enjoyment, existence of enjoyment in this material world, ultimately it leads us to what? It leads to dissatisfaction. And that is why when we speak on the platform of Krishna consciousness, we say that material happiness ultimately brings distress, because it is not of the nature of the soul to experience pleasure in all of these things. It only gratifies the body, which has a beginning and has an end. But the soul is eternal. It has no beginning, it has no end, because it's part of that supreme existence. And that is what Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Aparayam itas to anyam. Vina prakriti astada. Jiva bhuta mahabaho yayidam dariyate daga. That these delineances, mahabaho, Arjun, you have the higher nature, the superior nature. Krishna has 3 permanent energies. Vairanga Shakti, Antaraga Shakti, and Tataksha Shakti. The lineage is in the Tataksha Shakti, but is of the superior nature. So that is why it is always detrimental to the soul to enjoy material. But because we are in the material body, we make a best use of the bad bargain. What is the best use of bad bargain? To engage that body in trying to attain that which is not attainable on the material plane, which is what Maharaj Ambarish teaches us in his life of devotional service. Hare Krishna. I don't know whether that answers your question, Prabhuji.
Yeah, you did, but I still have a follow-up answer, because if you may, please try to answer the question without answering based on who is asking, but just answer the question the way it is asked, because you are saying that Srila Prabhupada oftentimes will say, show me your head, show me your hand, show me this, and then show me who you are. So I'm understanding that I am more than this body. I am not this body. And what I am, not this body, is spirit. And the spirit does not require this sweater I am wearing. So do I have to wear a sweater, or I do not have to wear a sweater? Because if I wear a sweater, I am gratifying my body, which is not me. I'm saying my body. So what do we really mean when we say we are spirit soul? We do not need material things because it's not our real nature.
Thank you.
What do we do? Because if I do not eat, I will die. And the food that I eat is not required by the spirit. So what do? Do I have to eat, or I do not have to eat?
Thank you. Let us rephrase the question in this way. I have a car, you have a car, and I need to drive my car. And I said, okay, I won't put fuel in this car. And I want to go on a journey. I won't go nowhere. The material body has a purpose for which it is given, and that purpose must be maintained. Just like we buy a car, the car has its purpose, is to take us from one destination to the other, and whatever it requires to put that on. So when we say that we should not engage in sense gratification or bodily gratification, it does not mean that the body should not be maintained. But when we maintain the body of the self, or we lay too much emphasis on gratifying the body without the consideration of the self, at that point it becomes sense gratification. But when we engage in bodily needs, when we take care of the body as much as it is required to give us the opportunity to arrive at our destination, it is spiritual life. And that is why I quoted Maharaj Amparishit. Maharaj Amparishit eats. Maharaj Amparishit works. But he works for the purpose of the soul. He gives the necessity of the body as much as it's required to achieve the purpose of the soul, not for the purpose of the body. And then in our practical life also, we can relate to that we need to eat, like you gave an example. But if we want to eat, and we said, okay, because we want to eat, and then therefore we eat on continue eating because we want to eat. The body needs food. We continue feeding the body. At a point in time, we will not be able to feed the body again, and the body will fall sick and will become inconvenient while inside the body. So the body has its purpose. Just like if you fuel your car, and the car capacity for fuel is 50 liters, then he said, okay, because I want the car to take me so far, so I put fuel 50 liters in the car tank, and I go inside of the car and start putting fuel inside the seat, inside the definitely, it's not me that will go on that journey anymore. So that is exactly what it means to be materialistically gratifying the senses. When we give more than necessary, what is permissible, what is allowed to the body, then it becomes. That is why our principle in Krishna consciousness is high thinking, simple living. Simple living means that it does not mean that we should not live. We should live, because as long as we are in the material body, the body is needed. And that is why in the Upanishad it is mentioned that one who learns the act of simultaneously maintaining bodily needs and spiritual needs simultaneously is what? Is one who is a perfect human being. So because the ultimate goal of the body is to drive us to the attainment of Lord Krishna's lotus feet. And if we do anything that defeats the purpose, then it means that we're gratifying the senses. And even the highest form of sense enjoyment, the sex that we mentioned, Krishna says is that sex, if it is engaging in line with what is given and how it is given.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the answer, and especially what you ended on, because my understanding is that something becomes material if it is not connected to Krishna. So whether something is more or less, according to bodily demands, if it is in a relationship to Krishna, then there is nothing wrong in it. So my body may not be able to consume 10 pounds of food. Maybe Kavi Kanapu's body may be able to consume 15 pounds of food. So if he consumes 15 pounds, then I'm sitting here saying that he is eating more than necessary. I don't think that I'll be right in that sense. And probably he's just eating prasadam. So my understanding is just what you ended on, is that if we use whatever in the service of Krishna, then it's spiritual. So thank you for the answer. Hare Krishna. Anyone else with any question? Comments, like the speaker said?
Question or comment?
Question or comment?
The devotees have become Atmaramas. They have become self-satisfied.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisance. Today you have to forgive me.
Okay.
Every time that you're having like that, I'm at work. And when my
It's okay.
is I have
It's
to go.
okay.
So I just listen, but today my attention has not been too much here. But my question will have nothing to do with today's discussion, but rather yesterday I had series of questions I wanted to ask, but I have to leave early. So yesterday when he did what's the name? Kanapura Prabhu was giving to us yesterday. He made mention that you cannot bless somebody with something that you don't have or you don't have in excess. So I would love to know today that we know we are coming from the Christian background, and there is this kind of prayer that we used to pray that God, I bless your name. So bless the name of the living God. So I ask myself, as infinitesimal as we are, what do we have that we be able to bless Krishna? So I want you to throw more light on this prayer. If it is a rightful prayer for us, that we bless the name of the living God. Looking us to be in a position that we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, but we are just something small, a small fragment.
Thank you very much for it.
So how do we answer this? Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Actually, words are not enough when it comes to glorifying the Supreme Personality of God. I remember a story. Actually, in this book, Sadhu said he loves that book. In the prayers of Kula Shekara, he was glorifying trying to glorify the Supreme Personality of Lord. Can I remember that story very properly? So he's saying that when the Lord is trying to glorify, but trying to glorify him as identify him as a landlord. What's that? How is it said? Okay, let me just summarize. What he said is that words, because the living entity is minute, the Supreme Personality of God is supreme, infinite. So the living entity has no capacity to be able to sufficiently glorify the Supreme Personality of God, most especially in the conditional state of life. And that is why the glorification of a non-devotee is like an insult on the Supreme Personality of God. Although those who are saying that, I bless your name, God, they are trying in their mind, what they are actually trying to do is that we glorify your name, God. That's what the intention is. But because they are not on the highest level of bhakti or pure love of God, so words alone cannot, just like we say, no material activities can sufficiently glorify the Supreme Lord without bhakti. Krishna himself said in Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pucham Palam Toyam, you may bhakti prayashati, that the Lord is not interested in the semantics, in the objects, because they are incapable of being able to glorify the unlimited. Limited cannot sufficiently glorify unlimited. So when people say, we bless your name, God, we bless your name, Most High, they're trying to glorify Lord, but it is like calling a governor of a state a councillor. It's just like you say, you want to address the president of Ghana, and you say, oh, Your Excellency, the councillor of Ghana, the state of Ghana. You're trying to glorify him, but the word councillor refers to what? The head of a local government. So when people use the word like, we bless you, God, their intention is that is why you find choice word in the expression of pure devotees. And that is why it is said the glorification of the pure devotees, the words that comes out of the pure devotees, is so sweet because it is nature of the Supreme. When you read Srimad Brahma Samhita, I think the verse 62 or so, 67, it is said that when the Lord is speaking, it is like song, it is poetry. Bhagavad Gita from A to Z, there are 700 verses, but there are 500 and 78 verses that were spoken by Krishna, and they are considered to be poetry. Poetry because it's so sweet that words cannot explain their sweetness, and they are satisfying to the heart because they are coming from the transcendental platform. So those who try to say, we bless you, God, they are trying to glorify God, but because they are not on that level of transcendence, their glorification is actually insulting the name of the Lord. But the Lord is very accommodating. No mistakes in the endeavor in human life is too fatal for the Lord to reject you. So the Lord will embrace them because the Lord knows their intention, that they want to glorify him, even though they are insulting him. So the Lord takes their glorification or their insult as glorification. And we have the same story like that in the 3rd canto of the SRIMAD Bhagavatam. I think the story of the devotee was that who was trying to feed the Lord with a banana, and was throwing the wife of what is that story? Who was that personality? I remember now. He was trying to feed the Lord Krishna with banana, and he was filling the banana, throwing the banana down, giving the Lord the peel of the banana to eat, and the Lord was enjoying it. Although it was after he come out of the trance, he realized that he has been giving the Lord the peel of banana. So if it is me or you, I'll become angry. I say, what kind of insult is this? How can somebody open banana and he's giving, and he just throw the banana down and give me peel? Am I a goat? But the Lord was enjoying that because the Lord is not interested in the physical thing. The Lord is interested in what? In the pure love that is being offered. So that's why he said in Bhagavad Patram Pusham Palam to Yam. You mean that if you offer me with love, so in other words, even if you glorify the Lord with the most choicest word, if it is not attached with love, then it becomes a mere citation of names. But the Lord is so merciful that even in that state, see, the Lord still accepts it. The work may not be that potent, but there is still some benefit. Just like somebody say, there's a song that the Christians used to say, but they saying that they're trying to do what? They're trying to bring down Krishna's name and then put another name above Krishna. But in the course of being there, they're chanting Krishna, and Krishna purifies them. There's a story, life story. This is a reality story. In Kaduna, there was one church that was directly behind. Is it behind? Yes.
Salika, your line keeps breaking up.
Oh, sorry. Network. Is it clear now?
Yeah, it's clear.
Yeah.
So in that church that is behind the temple of Krishna in Kaduna, so they eventually have to pass their church away from there. This story I'm telling you, forget the beginning of the story is that this church member bring down Krishna's name and his activities and the temple's activities. When they come, their praise and worship is singing songs to diminish and bring down Krishna's name. So in the course of doing that, they kept on chanting Krishna, Krishna. And they realized that the more they chant, they're doing that, few of them are becoming attracted to Krishna consciousness. They're joining the temple. So one day, their overseer, their head of their church, from their headquarters came, and they started. Obviously, probably maybe as read the Prabhupada's book. So when it's chanting, and you know, because they always use a loudspeaker. So when they are chanting, say stop, 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 stop. And when they stop, every church members kept silent. Why is he stopping us? And he told them, he said, although you are trying to bring down these people's reputation, you are trying to degrade Krishna, but you are ending up chanting Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. I'm hearing more Krishna than even Jesus in your song. Stop saying it, stop it, stop it. So, and then he stopped them. So from that day, they stopped singing names of Krishna. But at the end of the day, what happened is that the church had to move out of that place. The church is no longer there now. But it took several years. And the result is that as the more they chant, they try to chant to degrade just one of the songs is what I chanted now. Jesus power, higher power, Krishna power, lower power, and that kind of a song. So they kept on chanting Krishna name, and Krishna was purifying them, and they are becoming devotees of Krishna. So blessing God, yeah, it is as of sincere endeavor to praise God, but it is done in ignorance. But Krishna is merciful. No mistake in part of bhakti or religious life that is too fatal for Krishna to accommodate.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the question, Rasvilas, and thank you for the answer, Salika. If I may add a word, because I remember when I used to do public preaching, I used to say things like that, like, who are you to bless the Lord? You are already a sinner. Who are you to bless the Lord? But like I was saying yesterday, we should be willing to grow. We should be willing to grow up, and we should be willing to learn from our mistakes. And so what I used to say then was a mistake, because like Salika Prabhu was saying, if whatever we say or do, if it is out of love and it's even not right, the Lord is so kind and so merciful. His love is greater than his laws. So he will accept it. Like Mahavishnu Maharaj once shared with us when he visited Ghana. He says, when a child is crying, nobody understands what the child is saying, but the mother understands, right? The child may be mumbling something. Nobody knows what the child is saying, but the mother, because of the bond of love between the two, the mother knows exactly what the child is asking for. So we may not be able to express ourselves properly before the Lord, but if it is out of love, the Lord will accept it. Now, to bless someone, bless is an English word. And I want to put this out here. I'm not sure if you can see the writing here, but bless means to pronounce words in a religious rite, or to confer or invoke divine favor upon. So if someone says he's blessing God, in other words, he is invoking divine favor upon God, which doesn't make sense. That's one definition. Or if someone asks God to look favorable on him, so it says, God bless me, which is acceptable. But there is another meaning of the word bless. It's used in expression of surprise, endearment, gratitude. Okay, can you bring it up? Okay. It's gratitude. So usually when the Christians use the phrase that they bless the Lord, they're expressing their gratitude to what God has done for them. Again, we say that one should not fear God. Instead, we should love God. But fear of God does not necessarily mean it's bad, because those who worship Krishna in Vaikuntha, they also worship him with some amount of fear. And that is why it's called awe and reverence. Whenever there is awe and reverence, there is some amount of fear. But it's not like, oh, it's like there's some witch or some evil person. It's fear. It's a different type of fear. It's awe and reverence. So when Christians or other religious bodies use the word bless the Lord, it's actually a way of expressing their gratitude to God, or what God has been doing for them. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for that addition. We got it right when you said actually they intend to glorify the Lord. They are being trying to be grateful, but in the course of doing that, they try to minimize the name of the Lord.
Yeah, I don't know. Your mic keeps breaking up, Salika Prabhu. Oladimeji, please unmute. Check your mic, Salika Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you very much for the lovely class. I'm very, very impressed with the story of Ajamil that you referenced to, because I could remember when I read The Second Chance, Prabhupada explained in depth the story of Ajamil. And my question is, Ajamil, when the time of death came upon him, it did not actually call upon the name of the Lord, quote and unquote. He called the name of probably maybe his son or somebody around him, which resonated the name of the Lord. Now, my question now is, in his case, precisely, does it actually work like that? Somebody who do not call the name of the Lord purposely because he remembered that this is the time for me to look up upon the Lord. But by mistake, not by mistake, he actually did not even thought about it at all. He just called for help, which the name also resonates with the name of the Lord. So on the real sense, at times do devotee or human being have the opportunity to get rescued out of ignorance? Hare Krishna.
Oladimeji, thank you so much. In fact, I would like to add it to your question, Salika, before you answer, because I really like Oladimeji's question. Because Ajamil called Narayan, who happened to be his last child, and he was very much affectionate to him. So he wasn't calling Krishna. And Krishna himself did not say, I don't know, maybe I'm yet to be corrected. What I know is that Krishna says that whoever at the point of death remembers me. And here in this case, Ajamil did not remember Krishna, yet he was saved. So please, try to help us.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, I think, Lord Krishna solves the riddle. What Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I'm trying to see if I can pull out that verse. Let me see. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text number 5. Yam yam bapis maram bhavam tajati ante kalevaram tam tam ivaiti kanteya sadata bhava bhavita. I think that should be 8, 5. Yeah, I'm correct. That's the verse. Okay. He said, Yam yam vapi ismaram bhavam tajati ante kalevaram tam tam ivaiti kanteya sadata bhava bhavita. Lord Krishna said that, and whoever at the end of his life puts his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Then in the next verse, he said something interesting. Yam yam vapis madam bhavam. Where is this? Same thing. It is interesting that two verses. When you look at this, in text 6 is what I quoted before. But in the 5, he said,
Ante kala.
Ante kala, cha mam evam, smaram mitwa kalevaram, ya prayati sa matram, ya nasti atra samsaya. That is 5. He said, and whoever at the end of his life, which is his body, remembering me alone. Krishna is emphasizing here, who remembers him, is specifying now here. But then when you go to this verse, where he said yam yam vapis maram bhavan, then he says what? Whoever at the being of whoever the state of whatever the state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. This is interesting because Krishna is emphasizing here to him. So In the end, Krishna advised Arjuna. So in the end, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting with your activities dedicated to me, and your mind and intelligence fixed on me. You will attain me without failing. So this is the key to getting back to Godhead. But then, Ajamil was not calling Krishna. His activity also was not dedicated to Krishna. And all of these three verses in row that Krishna is the Krishna, what Krishna was referring to them. So how then is it that Krishna becomes compassionate and taking? And that is the beauty of battle. It is that the Supreme Personality of God never forgets our endeavor in the process of devotional life. Ajamil, in the beginning of his life, engaged in Krishna consciousness fully, with so much of dedication and devotion to the Supreme Personality of God. He was fully dedicated. But somehow or the other, the Lord said that Ajamil fell down. And that is the first aspect of it, because Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that, my dear Arjuna, in chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna told those who does good, my dear devotee, is never befall by evil. When Arjuna was asking Krishna, those who engage in the process of devotional service, if somehow or the other, or due to circumstances of bad karma or previous life or whatever circumstances, they fall down, what will be their fate? So Krishna says that I will never forget them. I said when I was giving the class that there is no mistake that is too fatal for Krishna to take us. And then I gave one analogy the other time of a GPS. When Krishna says that everything is within my plan. Sometimes the Karmis, they will say that everything is the doing of the Lord. That is not the statement. Everything is within the plan of the Lord. That is the correct statement. But that does not mean that everything is the plan of the Lord. If we say everything is the plan of the Lord, it means that even the mistakes we are doing is Lord's plan. But that is not the plan of the Lord. The plan of the Lord is different. But there is no mistake or plan, our wrong plan that we can make that is outside of the Lord's, within the Lord's plan. And how is that explained? A GPRS, when you engage GPRS to go to a destination, the GPRS directs you, go like this, just like Krishna says, when you chant my name, you will come to me. When you chant my name, you will come to me. So the GPRS is telling the driver, go left, go right. But somehow or the other, along the line, when the driver, maybe due to absent-mindedness or confusion, sometimes we are doing like that. We are using GPRS, but then we stretch our neck out of the glass and ask somebody, passerby, please, is this the road to this so place? And the person may not know, direct us to the wrong place. Or ourselves makes a mistake. At that point, the GPRS does not condemn us and say, okay, I'm no longer going to direct you. My job is finished. No, the GPRS does not say that. The GPRS reroute the journey and say the only thing that happens is that the journey may be a little bit longer than what it's supposed to be, but the GPRS will accommodate whatever mistake a driver makes in the use of a GPRS. Because the more mistakes you make, the GPRS provides more solutions. So the Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, is like that. When we engage in the path of Krishna consciousness, absent-mindedly, intentionally, or whatever reason, if we have engaged in Krishna consciousness, even when we make the mistake, Krishna has a way of rerouting, just like the GPRS does, to the driver to come to the ultimate goal of our devotional life, which is to attain it in the end. So that is what happened in the Ajamil's case. Ajamil's case was that Ajamil was not calling Krishna. Just like the driver was not listening to the instructions of the driver and the GPRS. The driver was not listening. If he did whatever mistake he has to do, but the GPRS has the capacity to reroute and make the driver get to his destination. And that is what Krishna does. And that is what Krishna means when he says everything is within my plan. Now, the second aspect of that same thing that we can say is that when we say that then every other person, those who are never even engaged in devotional service at all. When there are so many stories, like let us take Sisupal for example. Sisupal was not that a mistakenly. Sisupal was viciously against Krishna. He was very inimical. Putana was coming with intention. He wants to devour Krishna. But Krishna gave her the role of his mother. That's another aspect of it. So, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so merciful that whatever circumstances that brings us in his presence or makes us call the name of himself. And that is what, when we go further in that story of Ajamil, in the 6th canto, chapter 3, Yamaraj explained it because part of the questions of the Ajamil, the Yamadutas to Yamaraj is that there are so many factors that led to different activities of living entity under the influence of the three modes of material nature. So how does it happen that somebody who is viciously engaged in sinful activities like this becomes so safe? So in the answer Yamaraj gave, a part of his answer to their question, directing their focus to Krishna, he explained in that story that Ajamil was that the living entities activities of engaging in whatever activities is like a child disobeys the order of his parents or father or mother, but the father, the mother never abandons. So Ajamil was not calling Krishna. He had no intention of calling Krishna, but because the name he called is Krishna's name, Krishna took that as an opportunity, and he blesses him with the award of liberation to him. And then Shabakti Vinod Thakur, the third aspect I wanted to explain is that how the name of the Lord. Let me give a practical example. When we are engaging in devotional service, we kill so many entities. When we are cooking, we engage in killing so many living entities. But we oftentimes do this. Most devotees do this. Sometimes when they have to drive away. There was a day, but let me give a practical example. There was this ant on the altar and was climbing the Krishna's body. So I was caught in the midst of what? I was caught in the midst of removing it, leaving it to remain on Krishna. And because I have the duty of serving Krishna, Krishna has not manifested in the form of the deities to show his supreme nature. Krishna has manifested in the form, just like appeared as Mother Yasoda's baby. Krishna has manifested in the deities for us to care for him. So I was thinking, I have the duty to remove these ants on the body of the Lord. And I don't want to kill the ant because it's also not good. So in my course of trying to read, this ant became so stubborn that at a point in time, it was becoming so difficult. So I had to remove it by force. And when I removed it, the ant slumped and fell inside the oil lamp that was on the altar, and it burnt. The light caught him and it burnt. So as that was happening, so I said, Krishna, 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 Krishna. Because three things was happening simultaneously. I was feeling guilty that I've thrown up in this life of this ant in a mischievous way, or in a way that is not what I want. I didn't want to, my intention was not to kill it. But at the same time, I have a duty to perform. And the ant also was doing his own karmic or material activities under the influence of the body that is. So that happens. So this explains the third aspect. Shabakti Vinod explained in the Harinam Chintamani that when the living entity is fortunate, it becomes fortunate by the influence of the Acharya, or that is what they call Kripa Siddha. When it becomes fortunate by the mercy of the Lord or his devotees, such a situation happens. Just like in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, all of those who died, because Krishna was physically present there, he got liberated. So these are the circumstances that led to some of these pastimes of the Lord happening, because the Lord wants to express his superlative supreme potency of mercy on his devotees. Hare Krishna. I don't know if that answers the questions of both persons.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Salika Prabhu. Oladimeki, I don't know if the answer is satisfactory to you.
Well, Prabhu is well, I'm okay, but precisely, I'm just the point is, if in Ajamila's case, he got being favored by Lord Krishna just to set him free. How about all other beings that are not Krishna conscious, and they have one way or the other name of personality in their house that resonates the name of the Lord? In their own case, will such favor also come their way?
Thank you very much for that beautiful extension of the question. Like I said, ultimately, there is one musician that sings, even though his understanding of that song will be different, and maybe you might know this song. He said, "We all come from you, God, and ultimately we all will come back to you." What he's saying is that, then how can we say that a sinful person, gross sinful person, let us even say he doesn't even have any devotee in his house. He never even mentioned any name of God. So how can we certify that statement that everyone is coming from God and ultimately everybody will go back to God? Because that is the reality. Everybody is coming from Krishna. Everybody will ultimately go back to Krishna. How do we certify that? And Krishna himself stated that every living entity is part of my Mama Ivanso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. They are all my eternal fragmental part and parcel. So the answer is that, just like the example I gave, the time of getting back to Krishna may be longer, but ultimately, every Jiva Atma, every soul will ultimately go back to the supreme personality of Godhead. They may not go back in that particular present existence, but somehow or the other along the line, in their several lives of existence, by dint of some unimaginable fortune, they will come back into the fold of Krishna's activities, Krishna's devotion, and they will all go back to Krishna because that is the ultimate goal of Krishna in manifesting all of his energy, that everything will automatically come back to him. So whether they are sinful or not sinful now doesn't really matter, because if they die now as a sinful person, they never had opportunity. That does not in any way take out the fact that they ultimately will get back to Krishna. It may take some time. And that's why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Brahmananda Brahmi te konya bhagavan jiva Guru Krishna prashade pai bhakti lata abhija. That after traversing billions and trillions of bodies in different universes, when the soul becomes fortunate, that fortune moment will come. It may be longer, it may be faster, but ultimately every soul will go back to Krishna. Does that?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Salika Prabhu. And Oladimeji, I thank you for the question. I mean, the first time question and the follow-up question. I liked it because I actually expected you to follow up with such a question. There is this story I heard that somebody, an Indian person, heard about this Ajamil story. So he also named his child Narayan and hoped that at the time of death, he will also call on his son's name, Narayan, and be saved. So while he was on his deathbed, he was lucky. He was still aware of his surroundings. So he was calling on his son's name, and then he called on another person's name to ask him something about his business. Boom, and he died. So he died without calling the name of his son's name, which is Narayan. But what I have understood, and I don't know if other devotees may want to add to it, is that it is Krishna who gives
That's what
the
Krishna says in the Bhagavad
opportunity.
Gita.
It is Krishna who gives the opportunity for one to even call on his name, because God is absolute, and so there is no difference between his form and his name. And so even if one calls on the name of God without even thinking of him, he is still there. That is my little understanding. We are not allowed to speculate, but that's my little understanding. So if other devotees have something else to share on it, I think that will be okay. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Prabhu is here. Govinda Prabhu is here. We didn't see Arichakra Prabhu today.
No, he's here. I think he's busy.
Okay, this is Yasin. Okay.
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah, Mother Atma. Yes.
Yes, I'm here. Arina Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
I just wanted to say something small about this Jamil story. I
Yeah.
think the first day I read this story, I sat down quiet and I was just making some references in the Bhagavad Gita. And I happened to read Gita chapter 2, text 40. When Krishna is saying that a little endeavor on this path can save one from the greatest danger. I concluded everything on that point. That if Ajamila had been a notorious person from the start, probably wouldn't have been awarded this advantage or this merit of just calling upon his son's name and then being saved. But in the beginning, he had done a lot of devotional service that is in his records. That from the scratch, he had this record. So even though he deviated from the path, but that a little endeavor that he did in the past was to his advantage. So that was the conclusion I had when I read the scripture, Gita chapter 2, verse 40. So
Yes.
I think the conclusion I had is okay for me. But the explanation that Prabhu gave, everything is on point. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. No loss, no diminution.
So,
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because every small endeavor, Krishna acknowledges it. You're right. Thank you very much for that addition. Yeah.
Well, I think we may bring the class to a close, and we ask devotees to kindly unmute, and then we chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation for our speaker, and also Guru and Krishna bringing us all together to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mancha kalpatarubhyascha, kripasindhya evacha, patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. All glories to His grace, Salika Prabhu ki jai.